Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that you're here because we're going to do something different. Life update. I'm so sorry I haven't been able to update my channel because it's the opening of our semester here in the school in which I'm teaching, and I am dealing with more than 100 of students. And besides that, we still have a lot of preparation to do. Despite of all those hectic schedule, I was able to squeeze in things that I like to do, like listening to music, watching series, and of course, reading books. So I will be talking to you about the books that I've read, a wrap up of the books that I've read this month. The trend of the books that I've read are all Filipino authors, and I've bought them online. So I will be dropping the links of the books that I will be mentioning. So the first book that we're going to discuss is called The Philippines is Not a Small Country by Gideon Lasco. I am an avid reader of his column called Second Opinion. It's published in the Philippine Daily Inquirer and released every Thursday morning. Many of the columns which were written there are found in this book, are collected in this book. I could still remember when I was attached with this writing, and it came at the right time. The article is titled To the Good People in Government, and I was a young state university teacher, and I got to witness how oppressive bureaucratic system is and how I became so helpless and hopeless during that time. And that was also the time in which I got so disillusioned and I started disliking myself because I felt like I'm enabling the government as well. This is to say that his writing is not only deep in its analysis, but it's also empathetic, and it's also inspiring to people he's talking to. And I can guarantee that you will learn a lot from this book, especially that it tackles significant and pressing concerns on culture, in politics, and even on your self-image. I would like to describe his essays as expansive and astute. Among all of these many ideas in these essays, I think what he likes to say here is that everything, every movement that we have, or every phenomenon that we are experiencing here in the Philippines or even the whole world, is still tied up with the way people in power are governing each one of us. Aside from letting these essays open up your eyes about the daily injustices that we are facing right now, it also makes us more sensitive about the conditions of other people. I would go on and on to say that this book would let you open your eyes to the daily happenings of a Filipino life, but maybe more than that, I think this also makes you become sensitive, empathetic. I think that's the larger message that this book is trying to tell us. I couldn't wait to hear and read a follow-up on this book. I'd be very interested to hear about Gideon Lasco's opinions about the public health practices in the Philippines, especially during the time of the pandemic. I'm also recommending it to everybody who would like to become a writer and have their voices be read and published in news outlets like Philippine Daily Inquirer. Read this book and you will find out how he starts the conversation and put more complexity on a certain issue and wrap it up and make the readers very satisfied on how he closed it in. So I'd like to read one of my favorite quotations from this book. This is from the essay Never Again. Right? So, sana true. Okay. The world is beautiful and I have traveled far in search for this beauty. But once in a while, we also need to be reminded of its ugliness. Not to make our lives miserable, but to make us more sensitive to the misery of others and the lessons that this misery, past and present, can teach us. The next book I've read is Tiempo, muerto by Caroline Howe. This is a Spanish word which means dead time, and it refers to a phenomenon in the islands of Panay. This is a phenomenon in which there was hunger, poverty, agricultural difficulties. The premise is simple, but it's very, very meaningful. There were two women from Singapore. They're migrants, no, Filipino migrants, and they have to go to Philippines again because they were searching for one person. One woman, that's her mother, and the other one is her yaya. No? So it talks about diaspora, no? It talks about the daily conditions of Filipino workers abroad, especially women. And it also talks about the past, no? During the Marcos time, the radicalization of different Filipinos for their struggle for freedom and equality. And it also talks about the differences between the rich and the poor, and how there is a very big disparity between these two conditions. This is very, very worth reading if you are interested in feminism, politics, history, even mythology or folk beliefs in the Panay Islands, which is very, very rich. What else can I say? The characters here are very unforgettable. As I was reading this, I would say that it can be adapted to a movie, and I'd be very, very excited, and I'd like to see it. I'd like to do a ceremonial reading of my favorite quotation. To put context here, Russell was one of the characters whose mother was missing, right? So Russell here reflected her desire and her yearning to give her mother dignity when her mother would go abroad with her. So it goes. I would have wanted Night to fly to another country, not necessarily Singapore, and see it with the eyes of a tourist rather than the eyes of an overseas worker like me. To eat food that someone else has prepared for a change. To not worry about having to clean up after one has slept and eaten and taken a bath. And best of all, not to have to clean up after other people. ... Above all, to have fixed dates of arrival and departure. To know when to come and when to leave. To not have to worry about whether a contract will be renewed or not. Or worse, work for one employer all of one's life and accept whatever terms the employer sees fit to impose. The third book is Nako, or So I Thought by Joanna Lynn Cruz. But first of all, how to discuss this without gushing, because I like this so much and I'm so astounded by its style and its sheer bravery on showing a kind of life which is troubled but at the same time very meaningful. So I am describing this memoir in two ways. So the first one is that it's generous. It's generous on the way that she shows to us her secrets, her successes, and even her perceived flaws as she tries to navigate all of the identities that she has embraced, as a woman writer, as a mother, as a migrant, and even as a lesbian woman taking care of our rainbow family. So it's a very, very interesting read. But we also bear witness to the poetic justice as she narrates her reclamation, as she dealt with her troubled relationships and also her very tricky life experiences. For sure that we as a reader will get bits of information or insights on how to live life, how to move on from grief, from the feeling of inadequacy and not belonging to anywhere else. Second point, I am describing this as fearless. So this book and her writings inform the kind of life that she's living in. She's living a life with no apologies. I can also say that this is fearless on its style because it might be marketed as memoir, which is rightfully so. But as you read it, you will discover that she experimented with the form, and you can see that it's not just creative nonfiction the way we see it, but it's also a collection of photographs, of affidavit, poetry, a confession, and many others. So the title track, is Nako, or so I thought, which is my favorite here on the essay. I've read this so many years ago, but I still am amazed by it. I like it because it really represents all of the essays here, because it's all about assumptions that are leading a life of uncertainty. But even if that uncertainty would lead you to a terrible experience, it's still a beautiful life. So, passage time. To put a context here, Joanna was looking for her father, and this was the reply. Okay, I promptly received a computer printout reply saying, "Don't bother me with my new family." I never tried to get in touch with him again, but by God, I vowed to make him see me somehow. I have since realized that I will not be found by someone who is not actually looking. Ayaw niya. He doesn't want to, so he hasn't. Alright. Okay, so isa pa. Okay. Pero gusto ko din i-mention that she also lifted a quotation from one of my favorite movies of all time, In the Mood for Love, directed by Wong Kar-wai, starring Tony Leung and Maggie Chu. Anyway, so here, page 130 from the essay, Claiming Our Inheritance. I needed to realize that despite my failings, I am enough. That my family isn't broken. That I didn't break it. It is whole in itself as we struggle with each day's challenges, particularly in how to be present to each other and how to attend to each other's needs. This is not a massacre. This is the end of the fast. This is the feast celebrating the resurrection of hope. My children's wounds will not be healed by my getting back with their father. They will be healed by forgiveness. Knowing that we fail each other in myriad ways every day, and that we are given myriad chances to make it up to each other. So, some days, you can't save them all, by Ronnie E. Baticulon. Ronnie Bats, wow, feeling close. So anyway, he's a neurosurgeon, and he recounts his life here while he was reaching his dream to become a medical doctor, when he's actually on his way to practice medicine. And most of all, on his encounters with different patients. He's taking on a very, very crucial role as a doctor, because he will be dealing with patients who has brain aneurysm or a tumor in their brain. Those are very crucial, right? And that would also take a toll on your mental health, right? If you're the one doing the operation. And please allow me to be vulnerable in this episode, no? But it had me remember the times when my little cousin had to suffer brain aneurysm. Luckily, she survived it. Right? She's a fighter. So he's recounting of his patients' lives here, and his encounters with different people would really make you feel empathetic and value every breath that you are taking here. Aside from his wins and maybe his aggravations, there are also parts of here wherein he exposes his political stance, and he also reveals some of the very difficult lives of healthcare workers and the whole system in itself. You can really relate to it, especially today that we are on a lockdown, and the plans that the government has for us would make you feel like you're betrayed. There are moments here where he says and he uncovers some of the inequities and the lack of support from the government. Passage time. Page 61 from the title track. Some days you can save them all. Yeah, I'm soft for mothers, and oh my god, I don't want to cry, but I stopped my neurologic examination and looked at his mother, who began to run her fingers through the gaunt child's brown hair in gentle, sweeping strokes. My mother used to do that when I had fever as a child. I was reminded of the feeling of security and warmth it always gave. The same doting gesture was this mother's apology to her son. She was giving up. Wala po kaming pera pampa-opera do. Friends, here they are. Here are the 4 books that I've read, and I'm so proud to have squeezed in my time for reading despite my very heavy schedule and my overthinking. Let alone have 4 books that are all Filipino voices, in which the insights are very, very essential to our lives as Filipinos. So I hope that you hang in there and you also read with me and you've learned something from my vlog for today. So this is me also announcing that I aspire to make this a monthly affair, the book review, and I'm very excited because I've already read one, and I hope that I increase my book experience as well. And yeah, I hope that you read with me someday and share your thoughts below on my comment section. So I think that's it for now. Bye!